few weeks ago, I was on a call with a woman named Kathy. She'd been running her business for years, full client roster, reputation people would kill for, billing $8,000 a month. And 2 minutes into running her numbers, she stopped me. She said, "I am criminally inefficient." Now I want you to sit with that phrase for a second. Criminally inefficient. Not "I could be more productive," not "I want to streamline." Criminally inefficient. That's the language of someone who knew the math wasn't working but didn't know why. Here's what we found. She was working 55 hours a week, and when we divided what she actually took home by the total hours she was putting in, the number came back at $9 an hour. $9 per hour, with a full calendar and a roster older people would envy. And if you're sitting there right now thinking some version of "that might be me," you're in the right room. So here's some quick thinking on who this is for. Some quick notes on who this is for. Before I dig in, my ideal client is a solopreneur who runs their own service business, works constantly, and still doesn't bring enough money home to feel like it's worth it. And if that's you, if you've been at this for a while, you've got clients, your calendar is full, and the math just isn't matching the effort, you're in the right room. And if you're still figuring out what to build, or you're looking for a passive income shortcut, it's not going to land for you today. What I'm sharing requires honesty about your numbers and a willingness to look at how your business is actually built. No shame either way, just clarity on what you walked in here for. And for everyone in the right room, here's what I want you to know before we go any further. Most operators in Kathy's spot assume it's a sales problem. They go chasing more leads, more marketing, more clients. It's not a sales problem. It's a structure problem. And I'm going to show exactly where it lives, what it costs, and what to do about it. So a quick gut check before we go any further. 2 questions. Just answer them in your head. Did you work hard last week? And did most of that work actually move your income? And if your honest answer to either of those is "I'm not sure" or "no," you're in the right room. And here's how I know what to do about it. So I've spent close to 2 decades in higher ed analytics, helping leaders at one of the largest universities in the country make decisions about programs serving over 100,000 learners. The job was always the same: take a giant mess of data and translate it into one clear answer. What's the goal? What's blocking it? What's the next move? And I'm telling you that not so you'll be impressed. I'm telling you that because I'm currently the person I'm most qualified to help. I built this approach for service businesses because I needed it for me first. I'm not preaching from the other side of the river. I'm operating on the bridge between people still in it and people who've crossed. And that's what we're going to do today. Cross that part of the bridge together. And here's how this work actually started. About a year ago, I was at work building a quarterly strategy presentation for the executive team. The deck had to take a ton of messy data and boil it down to one clear goal, the main barrier, and a short list of next actions. And while I was building it, the thought hit me. This is exactly what I want to do for them. One goal, one barrier, one action. But in my own business, I tried planning 50 things at once and calling it a strategy. I didn't need 100 decisions. I needed one. That insight became a framework I started using on myself, then on a few other operators, then on more, until earlier this year, a friend named Joe, who's been in the solopreneur space for decades and wrote the book Solopreneurs for Dummies, sat through one of my workshops and gave me one piece of feedback that changed everything. Brad, you're authoritative, you're informative, but you sound academic. That feedback rebuilt the work into what I'm going to share with you today. That same diagnostic muscle, that plain language, real numbers, real fluff. We call that calendar to cash. Now, most service businesses don't have a sales problem. They have a structure problem. And everything out there, the courses, the podcasts, the coaches, they'll tell you the answer is more leads, better marketing, a bigger funnel. The issue isn't your sales pipeline. It's the structure underneath your business, the thing that determines whether the work you're actually doing turns into the money you take home. And it's not a time management problem either. Time management's useless if you're not managing the right things to begin with. Most people schedule their tasks first and hope income flips, or hope income follows. I flip that. Create the income target first, then structure the week around it. That's not time management, that's income architecture, and it has 3 layers. The top layer you see there is activity. That's how you spend your time. Client work, marketing, networking, admin, content creation. It's where we spend most of what we're most aware of. It fills a calendar quite easily. That middle layer is structure. It's how your business is designed, your pricing model, your client mix, your delivery system, whether you're handling everything yourself or you've actually built a way to delegate. Then we go into that bottom layer, the owner outcome. It's where you actually experience revenue, the money you take home, the hours you work to get there. And here's what most service businesses do when their income's flat. They try to fix it by changing the top layer. They'll add more activity, more posts, more networking, more clients, more hours. But the leak isn't in the top layer. It's almost always in the middle. Think about the plumbing in your house. You can turn the faucet on full blast. That's your effort. But if the pipes underneath are cracked or clogged or connected to the wrong place, it doesn't matter how much water you push through, most of it leaks before it reaches you. And that's exactly what's happening in a lot of service businesses. The effort's there, the water's running, but the structure has leaks. Would you keep turning the faucet harder? Or would you go and fix the pipes? So before we get to the structural fix, I want you to see what's actually happening in that top layer right now, because most operators misreading their own week. 3 zones inside that top layer, the activity layer. Every week sits in one of 3 places. Zone 1 is income now. That's that work that produces revenue in the next 30 days. Your sales calls, your proposals, your client delivery on paid work, actual money-making hours. Zone 2 is that income later. That's your pipeline, your networking, your content, the relationship building, what we're doing right now. Real value, slower payoff. Zone 3 is maintenance. That's your admin, your email, your tool management, your calendar shuffling, things that have to be done but are rarely going to produce that income. And when we audit a typical week, 60-70% of the hours are sitting in Zone 3. The week feels packed. The bank account doesn't reflect the packedness, and that's the disconnect. Time management will tell you to do all the Zone 3 things faster. That's the wrong move. The fix isn't speed in Zone 3, it's restructuring the week so Zone 1 actually gets the time it needs to produce the income you're targeting. And once you can see the zones, you can understand why a packed calendar can still produce a $9 income per hour. Most of those hours were never in Zone 1 to begin with. So let me show you the math that actually proves it. Oh, no. Come on. Why aren't you moving? Because I clicked the button. Right, can't click the button. It's arrows. Remind myself, it's gotta be arrows. Okay. Here's the metric I use when I find out where the leak is costing the most. I call it income per owner hour, IPO for short. The math is simple. You take what you actually take home from your business, divide it by the total hours that you, the owner, are putting in. Not your billable hours, your total hours. That includes your email answering, your calendar juggling, the late night LinkedIn rewrites that didn't move anything. And if you're taking home $4,000 a month and you're working $100 hours a month, your IPO is $40. If you want to take home $5,000 a month and you're working 25 hours a week, call it 100 hours a month, you need that number closer to $50. And if you want to take home $7,000 a month working that same 100 hours, you need your IPO at $70. And that gap between where you are and that number is now and where it needs to be, that's the income gap. And that gap tells you exactly how much structural work needs to happen. No more marketing, not more marketing, not more hours, structural changes to how your business converts effort into the money you actually keep. And I want you to take a pause right now. And if you've got your calendar from this week pulled open, take a quick look at it. And if not, count the numbers in your hours in your head. Take the total hours you put into business this week. Add what you actually paid yourself last month, and see if you can get, and just give it a general ballpark. Divide those two together and write that number down, because that's yours. That's the number your calendar has been hiding. Most planning advice you've heard starts with, well, what do you want? A goal. This starts with what's actually happening. A number. The difference matters more than people realize, because goals make you feel productive for a week. Numbers change how you run your business permanently. So here's 3 real numbers that I've run recently. A speech coach at 65 hours a week, her IPO came back at $29 an hour. A health coach with a wait list of clients trying to get in, $9 an hour. A VA working 70 hours a week, bringing home $1,000 a month. Do that math. Different industries, same architecture problem. The structure was deciding what got produced, not the effort. Let me bring us back to Kathy, the health coach with the wait list. That was her. When we sat with her $9 number, the conversation changed. She wasn't asking, how do I get more clients anymore? She was asking, why is the work I'm already doing leaving me at $9 an hour? That's a different question. And that's the question that actually moves the income. Because when we look at where her hours were landing, true structural moves showed up immediately. Her pricing was built around the rate she'd set 2 years before. And one of her clients who was paying her the least and consuming the most time, earning her eating about 40 hours of her month, an effective rate of $15 an hour. 2 structural moves. Reprice. Move the wrong client. Same skills, same market, different structure. And a full structural work takes weeks, but the first move can happen this week. Because when Kathy walked out of that call, what she walked out with was with something different. One real number, one specific structural move, and the relief of finally knowing what she was actually working with, instead of carrying criminally inefficient around her chest like she had been for years. That's what the diagnostic produces. Not a fix, clarity. And in a market full of these do 47 things and your business will transform, clarity is the rarest, most valuable thing one can offer. So here's the thing I want you to sit with before we wrap up. The reason this work matters isn't the income, it's what the income makes possible. If your business is taking from you, the math is wrong. It's not a guilt trip. That's a structural diagnosis. When the structure works, you don't have to choose between paying the mortgage and being at your kid's next event. The structure either makes both possible, or it's the wrong structure. Every quarter you work hard and don't see the take-home matching, you're withdrawing a little from your own self-trust. You start saying yes to misfit clients because the bank account scares you. You start carrying the business in your head 24/7. And when the structure works, that's what changes. The math and the presence, not one or the other. And the people I want to be known by are the ones at my dinner table. That's why this work matters. So, 2 gifts from me to CIBM before we close. First, every person in the room is going to get the 7-day income pulse tracker free. Normally it's $19 a month, but I've created it so that for 5 minutes a day for a week, you can see exactly where your hours are actually going. That's gift 1, universal, just for being here. And second, for those that are here as Summit VIPs, you get a 60-minute architecture call with me. Normally $97. That's gift 2. Now, for those of you who are ready to go deeper than the gifts, here's how I'd like to help. If anything I just said landed, if you recognize yourself in Kathy, or in the zones I just walked through, or in the gaps between the hours you're putting in and what you're actually taking home, I'd like to offer you a free 15-minute calendar to cash diagnostic. And here's what's going to happen on that call. First, we're going to calculate your IPO. I'm going to take what you actually take home, and I'm going to divide it by the hours you're putting in. A real number, not aspirational. After that, I'm going to identify your number 1 structural constraint using the same work I just walked you through. Third, I'll give you 1 specific structural change to make. Not a 37-step plan. 1 thing. The move that will have the biggest impact on closing your income gap. That's it. 15 minutes. You walk out with your IPOH number, your number 1 constraint, and your 1 next step. Whether or not we ever work together again. Now, where there's a fit, the path after the diagnostic is short. The architecture call that you saw in the gift slides is the next step. It's where I map the structural fix with you in detail. Then if it makes sense, we work together for 30 days in the income sprint. After 30 days, one of 2 things is true. Either the math has moved and you feel the difference, or you know exactly what else is in the way with real data, not guesses. Either way, no more flying blind. The diagnostic itself is free. I do these personally, which means I can only take a few each week. And if today's the right day for you, scan that QR code on the screen or grab the link in the chat, or feel free to email me. One last thing, and then I'll stop. 2 principles I built this work on. Structure beats willpower. You can't out-hustle a broken structure. You'll just exhaust yourself trying. And family is the measure. If your business is taking from your family, the math is wrong. The structure either serves them or it steals from them. There's no third option. You don't need another course. You don't need another productivity app. You don't need to try harder. You need 15 minutes of truth, your IPOH, your structural constraint, your next step. And if that's a conversation you've been waiting to have, today's a good day to have it.